Welcome, James, to the Simply Successful podcast, your place for evolution and getting yourself from trapped to triumph. Today is a very special episode with one of my beloved mentors, Christian. And I am always talking about not just the paradigm shift we need in our performance in a personal level, but he is an expert in business performance and developing businesses and evolving businesses to their fullest potential. And today we're talking all things business value. So stay tuned for a powerful episode. Today, this is all about value-based business, and I am so happy to have one of my mentors here with me. Just a tremendous business person and just human being in general. And I just want to dive right into it, getting to know you. And so would you please introduce yourself and share a little bit of your journey, to become more into that field of value-based businesses, and maybe that story of how to chase a Porsche, and now you're you're not chasing peace, but now you're embracing peace, and all the world around values and business. How did that change for you? I'm so curious because I know your story, but I love to hear the listeners just your journey, because it's so impressive.
I'm not used to being introduced that way, so I don't know whether I'm just blushing or not. Thanks for the opportunity. Introducing myself I always find difficult. It's easier to listen to other people talk about oneself than to actually talk about myself, but I'm trying as hard as I can. I'm 51 years of age. My name is Christian. I'm 51 years of age, and I'm just blessed with a fantastic life. And that's pretty much always been that way. But it's changed very fundamentally over time. And just like you've been saying, my entire value set or set of beliefs has undergone very fundamental transformation. I believe there's not one single thing that I believe now that I didn't think about differently throughout my lifetime at some point. And I'm just a very firm believer in the ability of constant transformation. I believe it's the most natural thing in the world that nature has given to us, and everything that society has done over the last hundreds of years has basically driven that conditioning out of us, as in, stability is key, and everything needs to be linear. And I have thought that way myself for a long time, which is why I've pursued a pretty, I'd say, classic career in academics. I was always a pretty decent student at school. I was a decent enough law student. I did my PhD. I went into business. I became a board member of large companies, and I sort of did all the things that one should be doing when you believe you're reasonably smart. And I just felt more and more hollow doing what I was doing, and I was always wondering: is that my problem? Am I wrong? Am I somewhat at fault? Am I not good enough? And where's the problem? And obviously, as we were all taught, we look for the problem within ourselves. And when we look for the problem within ourselves, we usually find it. There's always a point of deficit that one can find about oneself. After, many experiences, many insights that I gathered, I found myself to be actually quite okay. And I thought, okay, the systems that I'm operating in, the society I'm operating in, the business I'm operating in, maybe that is somewhat at fault, or not in the value set that I believe, should be lived. And that's where I found a lot of truth, as in, where do our systems generally steer us? What do our systems make us want to believe? And I think that's really where the core essence of many problems lie. The things that society wants from us, the things that our outside world demands from us. Many things are just a huge trap. And I really just dipped into these traps. I was a very willing victim to fall into these traps and to basically I'm not saying destroy my own self with it, but at least put it in peril. And the beauty of it is that I've been given a lot of love from my parents from the get go, and I think that was also the reason why I was able to dig myself out of this hole that felt just bad for me. Despite all the outside success, I felt bad. I felt like I wasn't myself. I wasn't living up to my potential. I couldn't believe the unbelievable waste around me of human potential that's just stifled by structural elements. And so I fought my way out of it. I basically quit my job without having anything new, from the beautiful office with secretary and fat car and all of that, onto the dole, as they say in Australia, where I lived for a long time, being unemployed, not knowing what to do, fearing for my economic life, surely. And then, building a business, first of all, obviously failing, and then building a business that's now prospering. And that's, I'm not saying changing the world, but certainly making a difference in the world. And I'm thinking about my company a lot. We're 15 employees now. We work with fabulous customers, but the actual gift that we give each other is personal growth. And that's where I believe the core essence of value-based leadership, value-based business is enabling human growth, which probably is first about healing and then about growing. And the healing part took quite a while for me as well, coming to terms with the fact that I'm, a very a weak human being and strong at the same time, coming to grips with all the polarities that are in the world that I needed to overcome into something that now feels like growth. And there's traps everywhere. And when I'm on my way, I realize I'm sort of nowhere. But when I realize I'm nowhere, I'm already on my way. And in this polarity, I'm juggling my life, and I'm trying as hard as I can to remain, in good spirits. And that's what I feel life is about, to accept the fact that it's hard, that it's not there to be happy. It's not there to always feel good. The hardships are part of life, and to navigate them and to come out of them stronger and more resilient. And at the end of the day, karma is, has become, my essence of life, as in navigating myself through these uncertainties is part of my daily life, and it feels better and better. And that's where I'm at. And this has been a reasonably long introduction, and it's gone everywhere. But let's start to be more concrete. I'm willing to answer any question. I'm willing to really dip into the dialogue. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Like that was perfect. Like there were like so many things right now. I was like, where like pick up from. But I was just say with the hardships, right? Like and this like challenges. Like I too like was on that path where for a long time I felt like a victim, and I had that like why me, like why does that happen to me, like why is it always me kind of mentality, until like worked through it, and I just realized, damn, like this was so necessary, because how would I ever know how strong I really are? Which is say like, I'm a weak human, but I'm not. And like if you would never, like even like in sports, you would never like try how fast you can go like a sprint, or how heavy you can lift, you would never know how strong and capable you really are. And I think that was the beauty of this like challenging times to look back to now and say like, wow, like it was hard, not gonna lie. And like I had moments where I was really like, okay, forget it. Like I'm not gonna do this, I'll check out here. Okay, like let me reincarnate, whatever, like more equipped, like, I'm like done. Like, but right now, like with like if I would not have had that moment, I would never grow like what you said, like peace in me, and just like in knowing that I'm capable of whatever life is going to throw at me in the future. And I think that is like really, really powerful, to say it and to view it like that, I guess, which was said. And the other way is where, like, I know we, like, our path crossed, I guess, like back in 2013 or something, right? In the corporate
Mm.
world, being in occupational health. And we were so different, yet connecting already on a level. And then, like, found each other like years later, kind of again. And like, was so beautiful to see how everyone of us like has grown and
Mm.
evolved in so many ways. And I had the same path, like,
I'm so
you know, with me it was like, of course, being a decent student, being a pro athlete, and just like what you are as a like as like a role model of what everyone's expecting from a hardworking German, probably. Like, they checked all those boxes off. Like, I was a
That's the
decent
trap.
student,
That's the
was a
trap right
decent
there.
student. Yeah, like you said, a decent student, pro sports. And I was like chasing down that path, like up that hill, so to say. And you really don't question it for a while because you get so much like praise and like appreciation, and everyone is like applauding and saying, hey, go girl, like that's like the dream, she's doing it, like she's going after all those like societal goals. And and then you reach that freaking mountaintop, and then everything is cool, like it was to me. I don't know if it like was the same with you, but and then you reach that freaking mountaintop and you're standing there,
and then
and you expect all the hard work, all the fighting through moments, valleys,
and then
to
you
now pay off, because you say like that's it, that's the moment like I've worked for. So now where is it? Now I have to feel like full and like joyful and overflowing. And then you're standing there on this freaking mountaintop and you're like,
and then you
shit,
and then you
like what you should say, like nothing. Like I like, and then you have like, that was like where I felt like almost like in a depressive phase, because I was like, shit, what was I doing? Like,
Mm.
this was like, it felt like it was for nothing. And I guess that was like where my turning point was. And do you have like, looking back, the same kind of thing? Was it like the PhD, or was it just someday, some event being like ahead of business, and then you reach that point where you said like, what the fuck am I doing here?
and
Or was it
I,
business?
I've had so many WTF moments in my prior life, I can't even count them. But one thing, just like now you were talking, just becomes clear to me again. Like when you're pampering your ego, when the outside world pampers your ego, and when you start to believe you're somewhat great, I think karma will very naturally, bring you down to something more realistic. And I've had this moment when I was appointed board member that I thought, okay, this is it. I always thought board members were smarter than other people, which I came to realize is not only not true, but it's probably very false. As in their cognitive abilities are certainly worthwhile mentioning, but the rest, as in, I have never seen like more dead human beings in the holistic sense than up on the corporate top.
Mhm.
I couldn't believe uh, how how dead really the context felt. I mean, they were all just about numbers. They were basically their own avatars at work, and there was so little connection between the humans, as in everybody was just
and then you
fostering their own egos and trying to protect themselves and making sure that one wasn't to blame for anything, and it was just a constant fight against truthfulness, basically. And then again, from the outside world, everything seemed fine. I had so much recognition from my peers, from my parents, from my friends, and I had all the money, and it was just all like I always pictured it would feel full, and yet I felt very empty because my ego had been blown up to such a big proportion, just like with you, when you're saying, you're a pro athlete, fantastic student, you've climbed to the what society thinks is the top,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't for you. And it makes sense that it wasn't for you, because I don't think it is for people that are actually still fully connected with themselves. I can very clearly say that I wasn't connected to myself. I was very driven by pleasing others, like pleasing society, pleasing everything that people had supposedly wanted from me or that I was maybe educated to be. But I hadn't listened to my actual inner voice that said, okay, where do you want to end up in life? Or what's the actual reason for living? Why are you in this world? And I think the stronger our ego becomes in the sense of being fed from the outside, the weaker we become emphatically to actually feel our surrounding and to feel energy and to feel flow and to fully sort of also surrender into nothingness of energy and of just the field of eco and the connection to others. Because society just it basically drives us into our own egos, like protect yourself, be stronger, be better, all this comparative paradigm. And that just kills love. And I felt I wasn't loving towards myself. I wasn't loving towards others. I was basically manipulating the outside world to give me recognition. And probably the outside world was manipulating me and giving them what they wanted. And that game of manipulation just had to end. And, on the first subject that you were touching on, I think you can only see the light when you know what darkness feels like. And to me, I felt, a lot of inner darkness. And does that feel good? No, it doesn't. But it's very part of life. It's so part of life that I've actually really come to appreciate darkness and depression. I'm not saying I don't think I was clinically depressed, but I think I've had some very dark moments in my life, and I keep having them. There's a lot of fear in me still. There's a lot of insecurity in me still. There's a lot of anxiety in me still. And I allow it to be. I'm not trying to push it away. I'm trying to see it, work with it, work through it. And then, there's always light at the end of the tunnel emerging. And I think that's just the way the world works and energy works. Whenever you feel that you're somewhat superior to life, life's going to pull you down. And when you feel that life just sucks, something in life's going to appear that's going to uplift you. And that's just the way that I want to look at life. And that's why I'm very rewarded with the good times and the bad times. And I feel life's got me where it wanted me to be. Like if I were to go tomorrow, I think I would have had a very fulfilled life. With many ups and downs, which is exactly the way I think that life should be lived. And it's not a continuous journey. It goes through valleys, through overtops, through love, through despair, and just be able to actually sense this entire universe, this entire spectrum of ability, of emotion, of depth. Is something I'm extremely grateful for, because I know that many people aren't even capable of even remotely coming to where we're at because they haven't lived through the hardships. And if you don't live through hardship, there's no way you can feel real fulfillment, real joy, real consciousness, real light. I don't think so. So grateful for all the crap that's happened in my life.
Absolutely. Like there was so much depth in that. Like, damn, definitely. Like, first of all, I was remembering like, when people like complain to me like about like setbacks and stuff and ups and downs and what he just said, and I was in that shoes for a long time, like not gonna lie. I always give them a visual of the like EKG line on the monitor, on the heart monitor, and I would just say, okay, so how do you know if someone is alive? And they say, yeah, of course, if there are those zigzag lines, right? They're going up and down, up and down, up and down. I'm good. And when do you know shit hits the fan, someone is unalived?
And then
when the line is straight. And I'm like, okay, so I'll give the question back to you. Do you want a straight line? Like, do you want a straight line? What does that mean? Like, and then they're like looking at me and I'm like, oh shit. Yeah. I guess you're right.
It's just like that. I've never thought about that analogy, but it makes a lot of sense. Good.
Yeah, and that's just what it is. And really, like whenever I go through dark moments, because like I think it's probably a never-ending thing with just like an onion, you peel layer over layer and just go deeper and deeper. And I always like keep that in my mind. Like if I'm going like, oh, why is it going zigzag right now? Like what the freak, then I'm like, okay, hold on a minute. Just like what you said is so powerful, which
and
I had
then you
such a hard time with, like allow it to be.
Yeah.
Like allow. Like this is like even in our society, and I feel like always so rushed. And I think that even for men or like mental health in general, it is like it's not allowed to feel that, you know? Like everyone is like, oh, if you feel that way, they like even if we have like little kids, they're crying or whatever. Like I see so many parents not hold the safe space for just allow that, you know, like every emotion has its value. And like I've seen so many like distracting, then they're like, oh, see, you want to like a lollipop or popsicle, whatever, or see, like there's a giraffe, whatever, you know, like immediately try to pull, and like even adults pull yourself out of that state and bottle it up, which makes it like worse, like even worse. And I think what you just said is so powerful, yet not easy to learn to sit with whatever is there and allow it to be and like just like give it a moment to like flow through you, like energy, emotion, like are supposed to flow through you and really listen what it want, like in what direction it wants to guide you. And if you're like immediately like push it away, you will never get into those awareness and like really like listen. And I think that's the trap where we also easily are on the wrong path for so long because we're so good and just like ignoring the red flags and pushing it away. Or even like sometimes like a bull chasing the red cloth, you know, like
Yeah, oh, that's exactly just the toxic masculinity that is in our society, that shaped society for so long. As in, emotions aren't really allowed unless they're really good, unless they're helpful for everybody and all of that. And it's just false. It's just or hiding emotions in business. I mean, that's just a joke. I mean, that just denies the holistic nature of everything. And yeah, when we're brought up that way, we just need to dismantle ourselves, you know, for us to be children again. Because for children, everything that we're talking about is completely natural. It's just being conditioned out of them by, you know, the fear of their parents that they had inherited from their parents. You know, there's a lot of heritage phenomena in this as well, as in we are shaped by our parents. They've had a huge influence and they've had a very different life. My parents, gratefully, are still alive. They were born in 42 and 44. They're 80, 82 years old now. And they have lived very, very different lives than us. I mean, we've lived a life in unbelievable fullness and unbelievable security. Well, they have had to fight through all sorts of things that made them cling on to security very much. And they were trying to obviously convey the idea of security onto us, where we're saying, hey, I was born in 72, you were born in, I don't know, 80 something. It's a totally different generation of totally different necessities of navigating through life. They've had the necessity to build everything up. We have the necessity to, you know, to maintain and to grow and to foster, and that's a totally different ballgame. And that makes, you know, generational communication difficult as well. And I know my parents have struggled with my personal evolution a lot. And they said, why are you throwing everything away? You've been on such a great path and now you're being a loser and what's going on? And it's been a tough ride with them too. And it's just their conditioning versus my conditioning, their state of consciousness versus my state of consciousness, which is just different. And to not judge, to engage in constant communication and to remain loving towards one another will eventually lead to something that's not only a compromise in, you know, looking at reality, but in deep connection. But that's not easy to achieve because when you deem something as fundamentally wrong, or when you're fearful, like for your child to throw away his or her life, it becomes very difficult for parents or for people that generation to remain open, to remain non-judgmental, and to just let things flow. And
then
it's a bit arrogant to say I've educated my parents down that path, but they've become great at that. And I think, you know, it's intergenerational, interracial, intersocietal. It's so important to just listen to each other without the judgment, to just listen and let the other opinion stand. And that's the only way that communication can work. And I think for us human beings, we are incarnated to connect, to be with one another, and to I am because you are. And that sense, that idea of ultimate connectedness that can only be thwarted by our egos. And the ego is always going to protect itself. It's not going to go into the connection. To keep that thought alive and to foster that, I think that's the mission of our generation, to reinstate that, because it's been lost for centuries now, and for good reason. I'm not being judgmental there either. It's just every generation, every century has its callings, and our calling is just to connect. This century is there to find connection again with ourselves and with the outside world. So
yeah, that's actually an amazing transition to the business value thing again, because do you think that this lack of connection, that judgment, and kind of that old paradigm is what has to change in businesses again? Or how do you perceive it, and how do you approach it so differently with your consultancy, developing businesses into new paradigm?
Well, I mean, the old paradigm is obviously, it's an ego-driven transactional idea, as in my company is supposed to be the best one. I'm supposed to be the one that's most successful. I'm the one that's supposed to be earning the most money, me versus my competitor. And that's, just like with human beings, it's the same thing. I mean, we're all living in one huge ecosystem that's called life, that's called economics, that's called value creation. And I think it just needs a fundamental recalibration of what we feel business is about. Business is very much about, nowadays, preserving life, preserving the planet, preserving human beings on this planet. And if we don't open up towards this idea that's much, much bigger than my own business, I don't think we're going to have a future. I can always play the ego game, and I could probably play it quite successfully. I have in my past individually, but I don't want to drive that ego game with my business as well. And that is obviously fundamentally difficult, because economically we have to, at some point, earn some money. Customers have to give us some money for us to survive as a company. And we are so eco-driven versus ego-driven that economically it's still difficult, and it'll remain difficult for quite some time for us, because we are just, the picture that we're pursuing is so much bigger, and we're so willing to share what we know and what we do with customers, with partners, with everybody, that we just believe that when you're fostering the eco, when you're standing for something bigger than yourself, eventually the eco is going to reward you. And it already has in many, many ways, not necessarily financially. I think that's just going to develop, because our perception of what value is going to change. I firmly believe that the value lies in connection and not in ego perpetuation or optimization. And I think that's the fundamental paradigm shift, that every company is asked to contribute to society, to the preservation of humankind. And that goes way beyond making money, way beyond. It's a completely different idea of doing business. So we're basically looking at balanced partnerships with, first of all, the own employees, customers, partners. We're talking about being part of an ecosystem and trying to, as powerfully as possible, connect to the elements of that ecosystem to create value for the world. And I'm repeating myself here. It's sometimes difficult with balancing your own company ego, like you have to make money. And to keep that in constant balancing, that's the entrepreneurial task of today. Because we can all keep playing that ego game, but we're not going to get anywhere. And the last couple of 100 years have proven that we can't. As in business-wise, you can. You can definitely play the Alibaba game or something or other, or the Facebook game, and work on making unbelievable amounts of money, and then again asking yourself, okay, where's the real value that I'm creating in the world? Yes, connection, but the attitude that you're doing business with is extremely essential. And I think value-driven business means doing it not for yourself, but doing it for a higher cause, and being able to drive that out of oneself and continuously refraining from putting your ego up front. I'm not saying that's to disappear. I'm a huge ego fan, as in the ego has to exist, and has to exist strongly. But there's always an eco driver behind it. And the more powerful that becomes seizable to the world, I believe the more successful you're going to be in the future. And, that's a totally different paradigm from where we were like 20, 30, 40 years ago even.
And then you
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of patience because the world is nowhere near there yet. I mean, there's little systems that are, but on a large scale, especially, shareholder value idea is not dead. The optimization idea is very alive. Also, the competition idea is very alive. And to keep fostering collaboration and the higher cause is something that you're still being laughed at, is something that's not financially rewarded just yet, for the most part. And I just believe it just takes time, and you just need to, persist and hopefully prevail, and create winners without creating losers on the other side. That's the idea, because we've created so many losers.
Yeah.
It's time for the win-win game and not for the lose-lose game anymore, which is why we need a radical redefinition of capitalism. I'm a huge capitalism fan, but not the way that we're interpreting it right now.
Yeah, I guess like the perspective and like intention is a big thing in like whatever you do, and like everything served us to a certain point, I believe, and all that ego thing and ego-driven businesses and ways of doing life, like served us to a certain point, but now it's like just anymore with more and more people like waking up to really like look through deeper layers, experience life deeper, like just asking themselves different questions. You can't just like you can't hold up that game anymore, because people, I think, are more and more now feeling your intention behind business, like feeling if it's authentic business, what you just said, feeling if someone does it because there is this higher purpose behind it, or someone clearly just does it
and then
to make the back, making,
Yeah.
And I think that was going okay for quite some times, but with like how we as like humanity grow and evolve and awaken, it just doesn't fit anymore. So I think as an entrepreneur, like have two chances. You can like try to sit it out or cling on to the old. And you would like probably will be more and more forced by life to do it, or open up like your perspective and your approach, or not just really that. I sometimes like sit with like entrepreneurs and like even that are like in a business for quite some times and have totally lost track in that game of like making money to secure the company and want to compete and all that, outside factors, completely have lost track of why it was they started the business. And sometimes it's just good to have someone sit you down and say, can you just tell me why you started? And like bring the businesses and even the entrepreneurs back to the core value or back to the why they started. And yeah, we're going to see more and more shifts for sure in that area.
And really, the phenomenon that you're talking about is called learning, as in you're observing something which doesn't really feel good, which doesn't serve a particularly good purpose, and you readapt. And we have somewhat unlearned to learn as businesses, as societies, because we've always trusted on everything remaining stable, on the heart rate monitor to show us a straight line. And then again, the heart rate knows very well when I'm on a systolic mode, I think it's called, and I should be going dystolic now. And everything is in constant movement. And being able to evolve
and then
means to learn, to adapt at any point in time, not only reactively, but also proactively. I mean, many businesses only react when it becomes urgent, when like there's some sort of urgency arising. And then again, the counterpart to that is vision. And when you see something for yourself, when you feel that you've founded the business for a certain cause, and when that cause is strong enough, everybody's going to be able to feel that cause. And authenticity, you just called it, that is the parameter that's going to make businesses successful in the future, because people will actually feel what you're doing things for. And we've both said it before that, the emotional side of business was like completely under the blanket. It was basically forbidden. And now it's got this unbelievable rise in complexity where people just don't understand things anymore, but people feel them, have to feel them. And when you have, the full world of comparison via the internet, like where do you buy a service? Where do you buy your product? It becomes essential to know what drives the person that you're buying things from. Because, I don't want to do business with people that just want to get rich, and I don't. And when I know that there's an actual value behind the business, and that's where also, the trust idea comes from. When I can trust my gut, my intuition, that the person I'm doing business with is genuine, or has a genuine interest, it's much, much easier. It's a complete no-brainer at the end of the day. But I believe that's the main driver for business success in the future, is that you are yourself, that you know who you are as an individual, as a business, that you make that available to the outside world, which means you're probably going to lose many people who don't connect with this type of authenticity. But those who do, they really do connect. And that's what we also feel with our customers. Those that feel it, those that want it, are extremely not only loyal, they're committed to the same cause. And when you are, business changes. It's not becoming transactional anymore. Yes, there has to be like some sort of exchange, like whether it's time versus money or whatever exchange, but you're actually fighting for a higher or you're working yourself towards a higher goal together. And when you're creating togetherness in business between, clients and our company, for instance, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. So, yeah. And that's where I'm aiming. I'm trying to just find people that believe the same things that I believe, and I have, and it's quite beautiful. And you're one of them too. And as you were saying before, there's always reasons the universe throws everything at us that we need. And our connection has been something that's been very interesting and very odd in a way too. It started as a pretty ordinary business relationship and evolved into something much bigger, something that connects us even without us being in touch, via WhatsApp or something. I always feel connected to you because it's such a unbelievable width and depth and energy that I feel is extremely helpful for the world. So,
thank you. Then you make me blush.
No, well, that's good.
But there's one thing actually. I want to talk with it, just like probably like inside now, and like how like I get mentoring from you sometimes. But lately, I've been in those big companies where I see there is a gap between the leadership and like the employee level, and a separation, and it is unbearable big. And I just like looked into like the Gallup studies about like how emotionally bound people are to their teams and to their companies. And I almost like shed a tear, not gonna lie. I'm an empath, sometimes a crybaby, okay, but like really like touched by,
remain that way.
Touched by other people. And I was like seeing those numbers, like 13% in German companies of all the employees are like emotionally engaged with their companies. And that's what you say, like, what is all the other like zombies walking around, or not even that, like there's even a percentage that go to work just to stir up some trouble. And like there became like such a big gap. And then when I look into the management, they're so busy with daily firefighting and trying to rush after every trend and left and right and like change, and completely lost track of their vision. And I think that's why it is so important, and why I wanted you to have like to be in that podcast, because with knowing your vision and what you just said and your core value and your direction, you're kind of unfazed of the hectic that is going down there, and you can like crystal clear, like focus on what you have to do to achieve that value or goal. And you are very aligned and you're very clear to your team. And I think we need those leadership again, where it's like we're doing this, we're not trying to please the market. Like if it's going left or right, like we're not going like left, right, zigzag, zigzag all the time. Try to please as much people as possible to like make the biggest back in a way. But like, no, this is like our path and we're going that way. And I think this is so necessary, like to really like realign them to that. So how do you do that when you go into a business? You first work like only with the leadership team, or where to start? I mean, like if someone's listening to that podcast and maybe like resonates with a lot of stuff and says like, oh shit, like now I have questions about my business, and where do I start like realigning it? Because there was some truth in that to what they said.
That's not an easy question to answer because every company is different, just like every human being is different. And when I'm meeting somebody, I don't have a plan as to how I approach that particular person, and the contexts are extremely different. What surely helps is when the leaders of the company and the top managers generally are also considered leaders, and management and leadership don't have much to do with one another. But that's another topic. It always helps to engage in a conversation with the leaders as to why they're actually doing what they're doing, why they're doing it individually, and why the company is doing what they're doing. You were touching on the idea of why companies actually exist, and what we always do in our formats is to give people it's like the sensation, that sensation that everything is actually impactable. Anybody has an impact. Everything can be changed. And lots of companies, and you were just mentioning the Gallup results, have pretty much given up on themselves. And to reinstate hope by creating formats where people can radically assume responsibility for what they're doing, when they can actually feel their impact onto the business, onto the company identity. That's what we do. And that encompasses working with leaders and making them aware of, how they impact the system, how the system impacts them. And then it's working with employees that, very radically and very quickly solve companies' problems. We intertwine all these effects and make them visible and make them workable and make them debatable. There's a sense of we can't talk about certain things because we just don't talk about them, the elephant in the room. It's a very holistic endeavor of which I can't tell you how we approach it. It always depends on where the customer stands, what the actual problem is, what is supposed to be solved, and then we have a very holistic idea of impacting it. But whether we start working with the leaders, whether we start working with the employees, whether we congregate heterogeneous groups, it always depends on the individual context. But what I can say from the bottom of my heart is that it's always genuine. It's always genuine. It's never aimed at, now I'm starting to sell. Doesn't make sense. I'm shutting up. I think everybody can feel what I'm talking about. It's all good.
And it is, it can like almost like say in 100% of the cases, a communication issue.
Well, I just don't like this synthetic shit. I mean, I've been a board member, and I've been working with the Rollerbergers, with the Boston Consultings, with the McKinseys, and yes, I'm very sure they've had their righteousness in the world, and they've contributed greatly to what's there. But that type of business attitude and their sets of beliefs sometimes don't fully correlate with what I believe is what the world needs. But then again, it's only me. I guess it's all good, but we just have a very holistic picture of things, and we just believe in the ingenuity of every single human. We believe every single human has things to give that can't shine because the systems are the way they are, and because we have an unbelievable lack of knowledge about how systems work and how they impact human behavior. That's the reason why Gallup looks the way it does, or why the Gallup polls look the way they do. There's a very fundamental lack of brain, a very fundamental lack of understanding of social interaction. And that under-complex phenomenon kills companies, kills societies. There's going to be a European election in a couple of days, and when I'm looking at all the faces that are smiling at me on the road with like some totally undercomplex ideas of how the world can be solved, I'm thinking, you must think I'm so stupid, but I'm not. And yeah, it's a drama that's going on, but it can be solved, and we're on track.
Yeah, and it is what you just said. Like it is making a change, and I struggled with that for a long time. And it was like, okay, what change can I make? Like, I'm only one person. I can only touch like one person at a time. But even that shifted because, like as you just said, we're like all connected and intertwined. And first of all, I said to myself, okay, if I wake up today and there's just one single person I gave an insight or a perspective or a help or just like make them feel understand, then it's a good day. Like at the end of the day. And this person has another proximity, like, has like interaction with other people. So I think it is undervalued what we can actually change. And because like it is like with the domino effect, like you change one company, in that company, they're working people, they're going home to families, and that is like a ripple effect. So I really think you definitely make a huge impact, like we all do.
And
Yeah,
then you
and from what you were just saying, I'm sort of detecting that will or that ambition to change the world, and I've long given up on that. I don't think that makes any sense. I mean, the world's pretty fucked up, and humanity's pretty fucked up. Let's look at it. And the only thing that we can change is ourselves. And if you feel a genuine connection to yourself, if you feel that you can accept yourself fully lovingly, with all the flaws that you have, you still love the flaws, you love yourself in your entirety. And if you're making that available to the outside world, no matter whether one person sees it or a million people see it, whether you make that unbelievable beauty that's inside of you available to the world, you've done everything you could. And even if you don't do it, even if you just feel it for yourself, the world's a better place. And I've long ago stopped thinking that I can impact others. Others can impact themselves by possibly maybe interacting with me, but I don't have the ambition to change them, to transform them, to not to even do anything for them. They have to have that within themselves. And when their door is open, and when that door has, let's in some of my light, I'm willing to shed that light, but that light has to first shine within me. And when we're talking about changing the world, we're fundamentally talking about changing ourselves. We've all read that in thousands of books and read it in 1,000 LinkedIn articles, but it's true. Forget about changing anything. It's all about yourself. And I feel, and you do need the outside world for that, which is the exact, that's the polarity that's within the world. As in, when you want to change yourself, you have to do that in the connection to the outside world. But that fundamental inner dialogue, the finding of your total acceptance of yourself, that's the hardest thing in the world. Because we're all so flawed, we're all so fucked up ourselves. Just to remain loving to yourself, despite all of that, that's a virtue. And none of us has learned that. None of us has learned that. Didn't learn it in kindy, didn't learn it at school, didn't learn it from our parents, didn't learn it in uni, don't learn it in the job. That fundamental inner work, nobody teaches us, and we all have to self-teach us now. I mean, I think the times are changing. I'm very engaged with my children in that work of loving oneself. And I just truly believe if we ever want to make the world a better place, and it's about time we do, it starts with inner dialogue, powerful inner dialogue, and the rest of the world can then connect.
Absolutely. And you can even like go deeper into like spirituality and like even like the Bible says, so within, so without, or something like that. And it is absolutely true. Like the outer world is always just a mirror of what happens inside, and there's so much power in it. And you want to know, like, a fun fact, we all get triggered by something, right? And a huge trigger for a long time was self-love. And every time I've seen some article, someone talking about, oh yeah, you just have to love yourself and it change everything, I was like, ugh, like get away. Like I was immediately swiping. I was like, get out of here. Like there's like, I don't know what that is. Like it was always to me like cocky and arrogant. And I'm like,
Narcissistic shit.
narcissistic shit. Like, yeah, like I am so self-consumed. Like I learned how to love myself. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, get out of here. Like that was like, I wanted to push that so far away from me because I was like a people pleaser. I was like there for everyone else. I was creating a beautiful world for everyone. And I was like, that is still kind of my purpose, but I totally neglected that thing. And I was so triggered by it. And I like I ran into the same things over and over again
and
until
then
I
you
had to
and then
look
you
at it. I had to like dive into it and I had to force myself at least to be open to look into the idea, okay, what could it be to love yourself? And I was always like in that optimization path and that peak performance, which I still am, but it was
and
a
then
long
you
time it was out of a lack. It was I have to go better because I am nothing. Like I have to do more because I have to be like better. I have to be outstanding because of this huge lack of self-worth and self-love and self-validation. And and now I'm still ambitious. I'm still love to bring people like to their tops or like, but in a way, like comes from a total like love perspective. It comes because I love me and I love people so much that I can't stand not living their full potential, you know? Like it is from a completely different mindset, intention, and
Yeah.
genuine, what you just said. And that was a big thing, like coming that far. But you're right. It sounds corny and stuff, but I just want to acknowledge, like, if someone's out there right now that is like, oh, I feel like they're talking about self-love again. Please just let's give it a try, or at least open yourself up to the possibility or to the perspective of what it could mean besides being narcissistic.
Well, when you ask Buddha and Donald Trump whether they love themselves, they both say yes, I think.
Yeah.
And very different. I mean, fundamentally different characters, fundamentally different radiation into the world. But they will both claim they love themselves. They love
Mhm.
their characters. So yeah, it depends on. I've long stepped away from thinking everybody should fulfill their potential. Anybody that's willing to not fulfill their potential, that's fine. And I
Mhm.
can only offer
and then you
my soul to those that want to, and they're the only ones that I want to open it to. Those that don't want to, that's fine.
Yeah.
Live and let live. And if that means the end of humanity, that's fine. Maybe I'm working hard to end humanity. I don't know. I think I'm not, but maybe I am.
Yeah, we
So I'm a radical believer in subjectivity and the idea of everybody navigating themselves through life the best they can. I truly believe every human every day does the best they can, and if that's not enough, if the world doesn't deem it enough, that's the problem of the world. But
Mhm.
people are okay. People are very fundamentally okay,
Yeah.
and I'm not there to help. I'm there to help myself, and by a way of helping myself, others can be helped, maybe, but it's their choice, and I don't want to impose myself on anyone with any idea anymore. And that's a huge change. That's a huge change because I always felt I needed to save the world, but that's gone. That's over.
Yeah, and it's like again, it's like, but think if not the intention, not the love for humanity changed, but like the approach changed. And it comes back to what we just said, like allowing. And I think like just allow people to be and to be where they are. And that is hard, even I think even like in relationships or family
Oh
or people
yeah.
really close to your heart and you're like you just want to like shake them sometimes. And like this is really hard, like it was for me to like take a step back and say, okay, like
Mm.
their soul chose that path for a reason. I am here. I'm like, I'm here. I'm holding a safe space. And
Yep.
if you want me to like help or advise or just like maybe sometimes just listen and be there, I'm here. But I really had to learn that too, like not put like my good intentions on like everyone like unasked and just like allow, like I'm like, you're fine, like not everyone has to be on a self development journey. Not everyone has to do what we do, has to be willing to dive that deep and like go into those self-awareness journey and go through hardships, and that's fine. But just like want to let you know, like if you want to, I'm here, and if not, I'm good too. Like like that detachment in a way.
Yeah, what you're explaining is the end of manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
And don't we all? None of us want to be manipulated, and just as well, we shouldn't manipulate others.
Yeah.
And in German, there's that lovely sentence: "Ein Ratschlag ist auch ein Schlag." I was just thinking in intention. There's the word tension. I know it's spelled differently, but when we're trying to impose ourselves on the world, it's not going to work. It's if we can only when we offer things from the fullness of our heart and soul, it may be taken, but it may only be taken. If it's not taken, that's fine too. And to be able to live with that and to accept that just tininess and the greatness at the same time, that we realize we're only incarnations for a couple of decades and then we're gone again and we dissolve into the huge universe and then we come back, reincarnate as an ant or a leaf or something. And then again, when we know that everything that we do with our energies impacts the course of the universe in some way, I think that's very powerful to just make yourself aware of that you're both at the same time, at any point in time. And that makes you aware of, okay, anything is possible, but at the end of the day, nothing has to happen. So you can surrender into nothingness and you can consider yourself the center of the universe at the same time. It's fine.
And then I think that's such a powerful, like, closing. I feel like that was like as always, value packed and like just like so many insights, and like I'm very, very grateful for you to share that openly with us. I always close the episodes with asking my interview partners on an advice or what is success for you, or maybe let's frame that if you would have to give advice to your younger self, what was the important advice you would give to you to live a value-based, successful life?
Isn't the German word for Ratschlag, for advice Ratschlag? Ratschlag is auch ein Schlag. The advice I give to my youngest, the advice I give to my younger self is do everything again. Everything. I'm a very fundamentally peaceful human being, I think, and everything that's happened, every mistake, every error, every fault, every pain, every disgrace, everything that I've felt in my life has led me to this. And I think it's an undercomplex idea of thinking, okay, I could have done something different and I'd be standing at a different point right now. Life happens in the now. It doesn't happen in the past or in the future. That's just a construction. It happens now. And if ever and there too, that's completely naive. Achieving the state of consciousness that I'm at right now, seeing consciousness and light, feeling the world and the universe like I do now. Do I wish I could have done that when I was 20? Yes. But then again, it was beautiful to be blind back then. It was beautiful not to see all the options and to just steer the way I steered. Just let it happen, just let it happen and impact it at the same time. And advice to my younger self, embrace polarity. Embrace polarity.
Embrace the journey, yeah, because it's freaking beautiful.
And the journey, yeah.
Embrace the zigzag line because it's life.
It's life. There you are. How soothing it was to talk to you. Fantastic advice giver or fantastic source of energy for the universe.
Yeah, I learned to like cross out the advice word out of my vocabulary now.
You're free to use whichever word you want to. Language is powerful, and I think it does something to the world. So I'm trying to choose my words wisely. And I'm very amazed at your skills of obviously mastering the English language. I've always admired that. I guess I'm not a very bad specimen myself, but you're just outstanding. So I'm always at awe how people can master a language that's not their mother tongue the way that you do. So
I appreciate that, but this is again like coming down to like internal truth, and all my close friends know that. Like since I can look back, I always felt more American than German. I always thought in English as soon as I learned English in school. I did my notebooks in English. I did my grocery lists in English, and I had a battle like with that because even talking about becoming a businesswoman or like an entrepreneur, everyone was trying to push me. You're right now living in Germany. Like you have to speak German. Like you have to focus on the German market. But with all my ideas and everything, I couldn't find a match in the German market and in the way German businesses thought like 10 years back, you know. And I always felt connected with even like over the sports with the idea of the US and how advanced it is and how open-minded it is. Um and I always felt like
and then
I'm
you
more than just Germany. You know what I mean? Like I want to like
and then
be
you
for international clients or like for the world. Like I always had that bigger picture. And that's why I somehow overcame that struggle. And I just decided, I'm like, you know what? This is what I feel most comfortable with. Even if I'm born German and English is not my native language, but this is just what makes me feel comfortable, what I feel pulled to. And I just leave it that way. And I believe that like attracts like energy attracts, and I know it's all energy. And whoever needs to come in contact with me is gonna vibe like we do and like clients do. And this is something I had to learn too, but it's really like back to like alignment and stand up for your true authentic self or what you feel like least like is true. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that very, very much.
Well, maybe it is your native language after all. You don't know.
We never know.
It's just nothing that your parents have taught you, but it may be within you, from the get-go.
Absolutely.
So it's native.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bless your soul. Thanks for having you. We'll definitely let you hop on probably on another episode about self-love. Like there's so much more to talk about, but I think it's good for today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like
all the best.
Thanks.